Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parcels of Knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
Good morning and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, the podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball. Today we got another Saturday with Shrum.
My curiosity is killing me.
And we got Mr. Bill Heller here. We're going to give him hell. Something like that. Have an investigative interview. Would you like to introduce yourself, Bill?
Hey, everybody. I'm Bill Heller. I'm a city letter carrier here in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've been a letter carrier for over 21 years, and I've been in 3 different branches because I've transferred twice, held different offices in each branch. The branch 818 in Key West was the branch that I started in, and I was a steward, a trustee, and branch president down there. Then I transferred to branch 1477 in St. Petersburg, and I was a steward and an alternate steward there. And currently I'm in branch 419 here in Knoxville, and I was an alternate steward, a trustee, and currently the branch secretary.
Nice. All right. So right here we have an investigative interview where listeners submitted questions. I've got a decent amount of questions, so we'll just start from the top, no particular order. For clarity,
I'll do the best I can with it.
all right, sounds good. For clarity, there is another highly visible William P. Heller who is a prominent corporate trial lawyer and lecturer on artificial intelligence. Is this you?
Well, no, because I'm William R. Heller, and that's William P. Heller. So, yeah, no, not me. My middle name begins with an R, not a P. So, no, I've been a letter carrier, and that's what I've been for the last 21 plus years. So,
Works for me. When was the last time you delivered mail?
June 2nd, on last Tuesday, and now I'm on annual leave right now. But yeah, that was the last time I delivered.
All right. Have you ever ran for a national union office before?
I have never ran, but I was nominated at the 2014 convention in Philadelphia, and I actually was not at that convention. Someone nominated me, and I did not know all the, I guess, protocols, you might say. So I did not have my paperwork proper, where you had to get 5 branches to endorse you. So they disqualified my nomination because I didn't have that form.
Okay. That actually clears up another question, because I had a question about in the 2014 national election what disqualified your candidacy. So that works perfect.
Yeah.
When was the last time you filled out a PS form 3996?
Just this past Monday, June 1st, I filled one out for an hour and a half of overtime.
All right. What made you decide to run for National Trustee?
Well, I think just from watching things through the years, it seems like the same people are up in the National for decades. And I think it would be good to have some fresh faces and fresh ideas up there. And I didn't think I really wanted to go for a position that was going to put me up there as a full-time, worker. The trustee seemed like that would be something more that I could still do what I do, which is deliver mail, but still be able to watch what's going on at National. And hopefully be the eyes of the membership on what's going on, financially. And I have no problem questioning, if there's something odd, make sure that whatever they're putting in financially is valid, have receipts or vouchers or whatever that needs to come along with it. I mean, I'm not afraid to question or challenge things. It's just sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. Sometimes people don't like when I challenge things, but hey, that if that's what the job entails, and then that's what the job entails.
Now, this actually is not a question, but I just thought about it. What about share with the audience what your slogan is and your approach to campaigning so far?
Well, my slogan is "Come hell or high water, Bill for National Trustee." I kind of did it as a play, so it kind of like people would kind of associate my name when they look at a ballot. Because when you look at a ballot, you see a list of names. You don't know who they are. It's just like, okay, there's 6 or 8 people running for trustee. How do I distinguish between one or the other? And I was like, well, maybe if they think about my slogan. Oh yeah, I remember hearing that guy, and I saw his ad in the postal record, and I heard him on Parcels of Knowledge, and he seemed like he's all right, or well, or just the opposite. Well, I heard him, and I don't think he's who I want, so which is fine. I mean, everybody has their right to choose who they want. I mean, I just know that if I were to be elected, I would do my best to do the best job I could, because that's what all anybody can do, is just the best they can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and what's really one thing that I've always been impressed with about our union is if you get into a job, they make sure you're trained to know that job that you're supposed to be doing. I mean, they provide training, and that's the unfortunate part about the postal services management side, is they don't give their managers or their supervisors as much training as we get in the NALC. And I think that's where there's a lot of conflict with the contract violations, because they don't teach their supervisors anything about the contract. And so they have no idea. I mean, basically, we teach them about the contract, and most of the time it's because we file the grievance and win it, and then they learn, okay, well, that was the wrong thing to do.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. All right, next question. The National Trustee is a vital financial watchdog. How do you plan to transition the office from a passive auditing function to an active, independent check on executive spending, especially given the current membership demands for fiscal discipline?
Well, first off, I mean, all the finances, any financial thing, transparency is very important. I mean, people need to know where their money's going. You can go on Union Facts and it'll tell you what the NALC's spending things on, but when you look at the officers' salaries and compensations, well, it doesn't break that down. And I think the compensations is where you need to look at, not just for the top officer, but for all the officers, because they all get compensations, and that's where you want to look at the receipts, or the expenses they're putting in, to make sure that they are all valid expenses. And I really think it's important that the members know where their money's going. And one of the best things I think they can do, and I don't think they do it, or maybe they do it and I just miss it, but at least once a year they should put the financials in the postal record. Because I saw somebody mention, hey, we don't ever hear anything until every other year we get some summary, or it's like, well, no, they the end of the fiscal year, tell everybody where the money went, or or like I say, even you go on Union Facts, you can get general idea of where a lot of it's gone. But with the expenses and stuff that they list on there.
Yep. Yeah, Department of Labor is a good resource as well. Just for those listeners who are listening who are interested. In 2025, President Renfro's total compensation reached $312,000, while thousands of city letter carriers continue to struggle on Table 2 starter wages. As a national trustee, what opinion do you have on the situation, and what can you do to change it in any way?
Well, I don't know that how much control we have over his salaries, the compensation part. Like I said, you can watch that and make sure that the compensations are all valid compensations. Um, hey, I'm right there with the other city letter carriers. I mean, I'm making those wages too, and we're at top. Your top city carrier, the top pay is in the 80,000s, and you got somebody in a position that's supposed to be bargaining for you making like 3-4 times what you're making a year. And it's like, so that position, you need to really, I think, make sure that you're doing what's best for your members. I mean, you know
Absolutely.
you know take your salary and cut it down to 84, and you try to live on that. And see if you can do it. And if you can't, then hey, maybe we need to try and get better, do something better for our members. And you know
The Board of Trustees manages the building corporation for the NELC, which owns substantial real estate assets across the country. Uh, what's your assessment of how these physical properties are currently managed, and how would you ensure that these multi-million-dollar assets are leveraged to directly benefit local branches and members?
First, I can say real estate. To me, real estate, if you're going to invest money, is probably one of the best places you can, because it's not going to go away. It's there. Um, I do on the side have my real estate license, so this kind of interests me. As far as like the millions of dollars of assets, the best way, I think, outside of having to use them to maintain those properties, anything left over, the best way it's going to benefit your members and your branches is utilize that and provide more training. Training is the key. Knowledge is power. You know,
Absolutely.
if the regional offices get a certain budget per year to put on trainings, well, give them some more money so that maybe instead of one training a year, they have enough to do 2 trainings a year or something. I mean, it's really important that everybody is educated about the contract and knows their rights. And these trainings, you get a lot out of it. It's not just somebody in front of a room giving you, lecturing to you. You also feed off the people that are in that room, because you have all different levels and years of experience in that room. And somebody in that room that's talking about a grievance that they had, you can learn from their war story, or somebody might learn from your war story that you have from past experiences. So really, you don't just, when they do these trainings, you don't just have the one instructor in the front room. You have multiple instructors with everybody in the class all joining. And I think if we have more of that, it would really help people learn and be able to feed off each other and say, oh, okay, well, I had this grievance and I wasn't sure how to handle it. Now I know.
Yep.
But
Makes sense.
that's my thing. I really think the education, because that's one thing that is so important in our job, is just knowing what we need to do on, and basically, I mean, honestly, on, with all the articles in the contract, we really deal with about a half dozen of them on a daily basis, as stewards and whatnot. And that's usually what they focus on, is the ones that you're going to be dealing with. And sometimes they change, and sometimes you might think what's in that article, and you go to a class and say, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, I forgot about that, because maybe you learned it several years ago in a class. But then there's so much you learn, you may have forgot it. I mean, I remember the first steward training I went to. After the first day, I went back to my hotel room with a headache, because it was just so much knowledge at one time to take in. So there's a lot to learn. And every time they do these new contracts, I mean, things change, and it's something new you might have to learn. So,
Now, if elected, what steps will you take or changes will you make to make sure that the audits of the NALC are fully transparent and accessible to the rank and file rather than being confined to brief summaries at the convention?
um, that's where I touched on that earlier. I think that you know, posting financial reports in at maybe at least once a year during the end of a fiscal year in the postal record would be a great thing to do, so that people can see what's going on and make them a little more lengthy than just brief summaries. And utilize your other resources with Union Facts and the Department of Labor, so that you can see even more of what's going on if you feel like they're not really telling. But as a trustee, if I was doing an audit and then somebody asked me, a member asked me about the audit, I'm going to tell them what I found. I'm not going to keep it hush. I mean, they have a right to know, and it's my job in that position to tell them. You know, you got to remember, when you get into these executive positions, you know, you're not the boss. You're the employee. You're the employee for 260 some thousand members, and you got 260 some thousand eyes watching you and everything you're doing. So and they may be supporting you when you run, but but when you get in, they're all watching you, and one mistake and they could turn. I mean, it's that, it just is what that just is what the
This is how it goes.
he, heavy is the head that holds the crown. I mean, that's just
Now, during the Article 10 investigation to Brian Renfro, questions arose regarding the use of his NALC-owned vehicles and union funds for business travel. As a trustee, what specific guardrails and reporting requirements would you propose to prevent the misuse of union vehicles, travel allowances, and discretionary funds?
Well, as far as like the use of any union vehicle, I would assume that they, like we do with our postal vehicles, we have to track mileage. They should be doing the same, I would think. And to be able to justify where they're um, taking those things. I mean, I'm sure using the vehicle, and you stop someplace for real quick. I mean, just like us, we might stop at a store on the way to our route in the postal vehicle. Well, yeah, they may stop and do something personal like that. But if it looks like it's an excessive use, that's not appropriate, especially because not only is that vehicle owned by the union, but so's the gas that's in that vehicle. So yeah, and as far as the you know again, you just have to make sure that all the expenses are legitimate, and that they can back up what they spent things on, receipts, vouchers, whatever. Just make sure that they can back up what they utilize those expenses for.
All right. Let's see. Many members feel that the NALC Constitution has been used selectively by national leadership to disqualify challengers and protect incumbents. If elected to the Executive Council, is there any amendments or reforms you would champion to make sure that the nomination and election process is more democratic and less prone to technical disqualifications?
Um, yeah, well, it's right in the Constitution that any active member has the right to run for office, um, and so as long as you meet the qualifications or the standards, there shouldn't be any. I mean, it's pretty black and white, I think, in that way. Um, some of them, some people run independent, some people run on a slate. You know, it could be good and bad either way. But
All
as
right.
far as using the Constitution to when and this was something I always felt in the past, because in the past you've had the elections, and one of them, I remember when Fred Rolando was running, and it was like vote for Team Rolando and all that. The one thing about those, that when you hear things like that and you're running as an independent, it makes you feel like you're an outcast, or we're a union, we're supposed to be united, but now you're making me feel like I'm not welcome to have a seat on the executive level. And that's something that I think needs to kind of change. I mean, if you run on a slate, that's fine, but I think it should be clear that yes, you're running on a slate, but if somebody running independent wins over somebody that's on the slate, the people on the slate, other people on the slate should let it be known that they're going to be welcoming to whoever is elected, and they're going to work with whoever gets the position they get. So the people maybe don't feel like I'm going to be the outsider, or I'm going to be,
Yeah.
redheaded stepchild, as it were, if I get in and I'm not part of the slate that was running.
All right. Next question. The membership's historic 71% no vote on the tentative agreement in 2025 sent a shockwave through the union. From your perspective as a branch activist, what was the fatal flaw of the contract, and why do you think the national resident officers were so out of touch with the workroom floor in the fact that they were suggesting us to vote yes?
Well, I think the most fatal flaw is a lot of them, and I think I said before, a lot of them have been in the national office for even in different positions for decades. I don't think that they really remember or know what it's actually be like to be on the workroom floor and doing the daily grind. So when that happens, I just think they lose the perspective of what's actually we're doing out there, because you can't do that when you're sitting in an office, day after day, without actually being out there and seeing what's going on. So I think that was probably what the big thing, they just weren't really in touch with, what actually is going on out there.
So they actually just were disconnected from the workroom floor for the most part.
That's what I think. I think that was and that's just my opinion or my perspective on it. I mean, I'm not saying that's everybody's perspective on it, but
Honestly, I think it's pretty accurate.
um,
After the contract rejection, the terms of the agreement were stipulated in an award by Dennis Nolan during the interest arbitration period. Many carriers felt this stripped them of their democratic voice because it seemed like the award was just a sham. It only was completed in 3 days, and that it almost seemed like they pretty much told the arbitrator what to agree to. What's your opinion on this matter?
I would kind of agree to that, but also that unfortunately, with the way our system goes, that is the gamble you take when something goes to arbitration. I mean, I think they could have, when it was voted down, voted no, and I don't think they really went to the table and tried to do more. They probably could have, and they should have. I think you're right, they jumped into arbitration, and it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's like, okay, well, when they do that, unfortunately, we have to go with what the arbitrator says. I mean, and that's even in other grievances and everything. If you don't resolve a grievance and it goes to step B and they impasse it and it goes to arbitration, it's the gamble you take with anything. You're just saying, okay, well, we're gonna just be okay with whatever the arbitrator decides, and just move forward and hope for a better next contract, or a better next resolve on a grievance, or whatever it is.
Yep.
I mean,
We're currently in the middle of a mandatory 60-day mediation period following the expiration of our contract on May 22nd. What immediate steps must the Executive Council take during this critical window to ensure we do not experience another 700-day delay in securing our retroactivity and wage increases? Do you have any opinion on that?
I think the best thing to do maybe is just to, not ask for anything outrageous, but just ask for things that are actually fair for us. I mean, we've been doing these rallies for, first class pay for first class service. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we deserve good pay. I'm not saying that what we make now is bad. I mean, compared to other places where you work and the benefits, we got top of the line benefits. But yeah, I mean, we put in, some people don't realize how hard we actually do work. They just think, oh, you drive around and you just stick mail and, a couple letters in a box, and, you call it a day, and for the younger carriers that are just starting out, I mean, I just turned 59 today. You're going to realize after 15, 20 years, it's hard on the body. You will have aches and pains in places that you didn't even know existed. So, and
that's right. It's your birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Make sure
Thank
everyone
you.
understands that's dedication, doing an interview on your birthday. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Hey, I'm happy to do it. But yeah, you have to realize, so for those aches and pains and all those, shoulders and back aches, yeah, we should be compensated a decent pay for that, and I agree with that. And, our benefits should remain, top of the line benefits, and we shouldn't have to keep paying more for our benefits, but unfortunately that's all part of it. I mean, I know it's all part of inflation, and, there's got to be some kind of give and take there. And, honestly, when they were given opinions, they sent out surveys, I remember, and they asked, people about what they thought, they should have agree to, or negotiate for, or whatever on the contract. And quite honestly, personally, as I get older, hey, throw in an extra 40 hours of annual leave to everybody. That would be great. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary, because give me more time off. That would be good too. I mean, and you, again, as you get into the postal service longer, these younger guys are going to understand time off. It becomes like gold down the road. You're going to, say, God, and even when you get to the point where you go from 4 weeks and you get to the 15 years and you get that fifth week, you just can't believe how much of a difference that extra week does make. It's like, oh, wow, I still got another week. What am I going to do with it?
Absolutely. All right. The Article 10 charges against Brian Renfro, I'm not sure if you were familiar with them, exposed deep divisions within the Executive Council. Although it found him guilty of driving impaired in an NALC vehicle, he was cleared of neglect of duty during contract negotiations for the last contract. If you had been sitting on the Executive Council during those deliberations, how would you have voted on those charges, and how do we rebuild trust in the union's internal justice system?
Honestly, without actually seeing all the paperwork and hearing both sides, I don't know if I can really say how I would have voted, because I don't have all the information in front of me. I mean, I can't just say, oh, well, I would have, voted for him, or I would have voted against him, because I don't have all that details in front of me. If I were there and it looked like, yes, he had done the neglect of things, then I would have voted appropriately. I mean, that's really, until you're actually there looking at and hearing both sides of the story and hearing everything, it's hard to just say, oh, I would have voted this way or that way.
All right, that's reasonable. In 2025 alone, management paid out billions of dollars in grievance settlements due to, I don't know if that's actually true. I think it was $3 billion within 3 years, but either way, due to contract violations, yet hostile work environments and abusive supervisors remain rampant on the workroom floor. The CLC slate has proposed a Dogs of War task force. If you're not familiar, that task force is meant to be sent into units to try and deal with, like a union group of people to be sent into the units that are particularly bad at mutual respect violations, and they're going to go in and try and take care of it. Do you support these initiatives, and how would you, as a trustee, ensure that they are adequately funded in the national budget?
Just the name alone, where it says Dogs of War Task Force, the first thing I think of is you're looking for a conflict between the NALC and management. And is that going to cause even more hostilities if we do something like that? Maybe, maybe not. Again, it goes back to the Postal Service not training their supervisors. They don't train them on the contract. They don't know what the provisions of the contract are. They are basically almost from a person I worked with years ago who went into management told me she went to the postal management training in Oklahoma City, and she goes, they tell us to be mean. They tell us to harass people, and it's like, wow. Joint trainings are we did one when I was in St. Pete. We did one in Tampa, and I thought it was really a good training, and maybe something that other regions can do. We had a representative from the district labor office in the Suncoast district, and a representative from the regional office, one of the RAAs, did a joint training, and it was mandatory for the immediate supervisor and the steward to attend that training together. And they, from both perspectives, taught everybody in that meeting, this is what you do. You need to resolve grievances as soon as you can, try to avoid them moving up. And to me, that was really a good training. I thought, and maybe more trainings like that might help. Maybe they won't, as far as, the hostile and harassment, keep a daily log with you. If you've got a supervisor that's harassing you, keep a daily log, fill out those 1767s, make that paper trail, make your case, let your steward know. If somebody's harassing you, if you got a supervisor harassing you, get somebody, if there's somebody else in the office, have them as a witness. I mean, we can protect ourselves. But also you don't want to get into a situation, if where you cause a conflict with management too much, because you have to remember that joint statement on violence and behavior works both ways. A supervisor can file against an employee just as easily as we can file against them. They're protected under it as well as us. So if they feel like you're turning around and being the harassing one, that could even cause more issues. And maybe, and this, Dog of War task force, depending on how they go in to handle things, you don't want even more conflict. You want to resolve things, but just remember, they have those same rights as we do under that joint statement.
All right. Let's see. Under the NALC General Resolution 12 and 22, I'm not sure how accurate that is. I didn't check myself. But it does talk about the national leadership was mandated to post bi-weekly and monthly bargaining updates on the members-only portal. The administration has frequently been accused of violating these convention-mandated directives. What mechanisms should the Board of Trustees or Executive Board implement to penalize officers, or do you agree or disagree that they should be penalized for not adhering to convention resolutions from the membership?
Well, they should be called out on it. I mean, if the membership tells you this is the resolutions they've come up with and these have been approved, again, it's what I said before. They are not our bosses. They are our employees. They work for us. We voted and we put you in that position. We can vote and take you out of that position. So that's our biggest stronghold that we can have over them is, if you're not doing what we put you in an office to do, we'll find somebody else. So, and that's, I guess that's really just the way I can feel about that one.
Now, oftentimes the Executive Council meeting minutes are not disclosed, especially the special meetings they call. Do you agree certain platforms may have called for the posting of those things in a postal record? Do you agree that these things should be open as a potential member of the Executive Board? Do you agree that your meeting minutes should be published about what you guys discussed and what the conclusions were?
Oh, I think transparency is ultimately fine. I mean, anybody should be able to read minutes from a meeting. I mean, whether it's an executive board meeting or not, I mean, you should have the right to see what they talked about, because whatever they're talking about is ultimately going to affect you and your fellow letter carriers. So yeah, I absolutely think that meeting minutes should be disclosed.
Let's see. The 2026 election features several competing factions, including the Concerned Letter Carriers, led by James Henry, and the independent campaign of Mike Cariff. You are running as an independent candidate for National Trustee. That's an assumption. I don't know if it's true. Why did you choose to run independently rather than joining a formalized reform slate?
I guess, yeah, I am running as an independent. I'm funding my own campaign. I'm not asking for contributions. I'm just doing this on my own. And I guess it goes back to what I had said. I mean, I just feel like when you're part of a slate like that, you're excluding or maybe potentially making people feel excluded. Like if they went to run, that they're not welcome. And I would rather run independently and,
Okay, that's a pretty simple answer. The CLC slate has endorsed John Cruz, David Groskopf, and Howard Comini for the 3 national trustee seats. I do know that also Sandy Lamel from Detroit, I think she currently holds one of those seats, and I assume she's going to run for re-election. What distinguishes your platform, background, and vision from these endorsed candidates, and why should members split their ticket to vote for an independent candidate like you?
Well, all I can say about that is if I get in, I'm going to do the best job I can. I'm going to be upfront. I'm going to let people know what's going on. I think integrity is important. Once you don't tell somebody the truth about something, I mean, then your whole integrity is gone. And, I think everything should be transparent. Do I have the experience that some of these other people have? Maybe, maybe not. I've been around a while. I've had different positions, as I mentioned earlier. And if I don't know, I'll learn it and just be the best trustee I possibly can be. I mean, because that's really all I can do is tell you if I get in, I'm going to be the best I can be. And if you feel that the the other, three other people are more qualified or you think would do better, that's very great. Go for it. That's wonderful. I wouldn't be offended. I I would be as proud of myself if I got 100 votes as if I got 30,000 votes, because the one thing is, whatever I get, I earn those, and nobody could take that away from me. So, but all I can promise is that I would do the best job I possibly could for the membership.
To be honest, I do want to mention there's one thing you have about yourself that a lot of candidates can't say, and for some reason, I don't know the reason why, a lot of members think it's important. I think it's the fact that you continue to carry your route. You carried your route less than a week ago. So I think for some
Well, and
reason,
I intend to
yeah,
continue doing that. I mean, I'm a mailman. I'm not. I'm not an executive. I'm not somebody that wants to sit in an office. I
yep,
want, I love my job. I think it's the best thing, and another thing people have to realize, when kind of going back to the harassing part of it, is always remember, we are only dealing with the supervisor or the management for maybe an hour and a half a day. Other than that, we're out on our own on the street. So for the majority of our job, we're doing it kind of independently. And, you know, there are, when you work in an office, you can't say that. You always have somebody watching over you. And,
yep,
yeah, and unless they're coming out and doing street observations on you every day, you're pretty much, yeah, they have us GPS, but I don't care about that. And when they say, they, they try to harass people about, putting in for overtime or whatever, and then they threaten, oh well, we'll come out on the street with you. Hey, come on along with me. That never was, to me, was an intimidation. It's like, yeah, come on along. I mean, I'm going
yeah.
to do my job whether you're there or not. But yes, I have no intention on not being a letter carrier. That's just who I am and what I am, and you know.
That's good. Over the past 2 years, independent union podcasts, including From A to Arbitration, Classes of Mail, Next Generation Carriers, and Parcels of Knowledge, have bypassed traditional union publications to become the primary sources of information and organization for the rank and file. As a candidate, would you utilize these avenues to share information if traditional avenues become roadblocks in terms of sharing financial issues? I think they're talking about like as part of your plan of transparency for the
Oh,
financial.
I think podcasts are a wonderful thing. I mean, I never really listened to. I'll be honest, I've never really listened to podcasts, and this is the first one I've ever done. But I think it's a great way to disseminate information to people. I mean, you know, I definitely would utilize it.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, one last question, and then we got one more. Brother Bill Heller, many members, including myself, this is the question person, not me, plan on supporting Brother Mike Cara for NALC president. How can members be confident that you can work together with Brother Mike to help strengthen our union and improve conditions for the membership?
I actually had the opportunity to meet Mike. He came to one of our union meetings, and we talked some. I can work with anybody. I mean, if it was the CLC people got in there and then I happen to get in, if Mike's in there and I happen to get in, I'm very easy to work with. I'm happy to work with anybody. As the biggest thing, you keep a mutual respect with each other, and yeah, I have no problem working with anybody.
Awesome. One last question, the same question we always ask in any investigative interview, because we like to take an objective viewpoint. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
The only thing, no matter who you're supporting, all I say is vote. It's what we need to do. It's how we make our voices heard. Whether you vote for me, whether you vote for the other trustees, whether you vote for Mike, whether you vote for James, whoever you're going to vote for, just vote. When that ballot comes in the mail, don't ignore it. Get it in on by the time frame. so that it counts. Make sure you do it the way it's supposed to be. If it says sign here and don't make any marks here, don't do that. Don't make any marks. Don't, make sure you sign it. Make sure everything's proper on it so it counts. Just vote.
Yeah, come hell or high water, make sure you vote, damn it.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
I like that message. I think that's really good. It was good having you on, Bill.
This was great. I really enjoyed it. And I hope I was able to bring a little bit more comfort and confidence to my fellow brothers and sisters that, yeah, if I get elected, yes, I will do the job for you. That's guaranteed. So
I look forward to having many more conversations. You have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
If these guys are getting educated, we will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The grievous genius, the Roseville Wrecking Ball, doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.